Welcome to the Ozone.
Hello and welcome to the Ozone. I'm your host, Jeff Hazard, Assistant Director of Athletics and Sports Information Director here at the college. And we are continuing again with one of our Hall of Fame inductee shows for 2021 Hall of Fame induction class. And today is my honor and pleasure to welcome in one of our inductees all the way from Florida remotely. And why don't you welcome now Lee Aldrich, class of 63. Welcome, Lee.
Good morning. How are you this morning?
I'm doing well, doing well. Listen, on behalf of the college and the Athletic Hall of Fame Committee, I'd like to congratulate you on your honor, certainly well deserved.
Well, thank you very much. I greatly appreciate even being honored at this time.
Yeah. What does it feel like to now be a Hall of Famer?
Very, very exciting. I had said to we have three sons, and they were absolutely thrilled. Going back 62 years,
Yeah.
which is a lot of years.
It is. So let's, two-sport athlete, number one tennis player for us, and also standout defensive player for our men's soccer team. And why don't you talk a little bit about what it was like to, play two sports? Of course, why don't we, how did you get to Oneonta first? I know you and I have had some conversations, and I want to get some of those conversations here on the show today. So how did you come to Oneonta?
Oh, it was a very interesting thing. I was very good at math and science in high school, and through, counseling, they said you should be an engineer. So I applied to engineering schools, and I was accepted at Clarkson, which is upstate New York. And I was going, obviously, I knew that they had soccer and tennis there. And I went up early, and through my own truly stupidity, freshmen couldn't play varsity ball. And remember, this goes back many years, and I was very, very disappointed. So I took one semester there, and I met a young man by the name of Keith Bundy. And so happened to be, he was on my floor. I didn't know him in the beginning. And he was transferring to Oneonta. And I said to him, really, what's Oneonta? And he said, oh, it's a state school. And he said, they're starting a brand new math and science program next year in there. And I said, wow. And his father was the director of admissions at Oneonta, Dr. Bundy. And that's how I got to Oneonta.
Wow. That's quite a story. And certainly we're glad that you did come here. So when you first got here, you said that Garth had not started as the coach yet. Who was the coach for your first season?
McCann?
Hurley McLean.
McLean, I'm
Hurley
sorry.
McLean.
Yes, he was there for the first 2 years.
Okay.
And then Garth came the last 2 years.
Okay. And your tennis coach was G. Hal Chase?
Yes, he was.
Yeah.
He was for 4 years.
Okay.
And I believe the program only started in 1958, I think.
Yes. So you were right at the beginning stages of our men's tennis program, which has enjoyed such a long history of success for the last 60 years.
It got better and better without me.
No, yeah. Well, we had to start somewhere, right? But a player like yours.
That's very true. I think there were only 6 of us that started in 59,
wow.
60, and then it went up to 8 or 10 people.
Yeah. Well, you only need 6 players for a men's tennis team.
That's all we needed. And we did fairly well.
Yes, you did. So what was it like playing for both Garth and G. Hal Chase?
Well, Garth was an absolutely excellent coach and a leader. And to me, he elevated that program 100%. And nothing against anything else. It was just a different intensity that he gave to the program. And I guess through the years, the program has really exceeded what we did in the early years.
And then what about G. Hal Chase? Everybody, very beloved man here. We have a building named after him. I mean, what was it like to play for G. Hal?
Excellent, really excellent. He, with only 6 of us, it was kind of very much of a family. He tucked us under. we never went on a bus. We went in a car or a van
Wow.
to all the places. And, he really was very much of a father figure to us. And tennis was something that you bring in the skill level yourself. And unless you have a coach who can raise that skill level, and I don't know how long he lasted after, we were through, but I assume that the level of tennis got much, much better than we had at that time.
Right. And of course, that was, let's bring people back a little bit, because obviously the campus is considerably a lot different than when you were here. And actually, I think you and I in our conversations, you said that there was really only one building on our campus where it is now. And Old Main is the place where everybody, pretty much took all their classes and did whatever they need to do. So give us a sense of what the campus was like.
The campus was very small. Obviously, there were female dorms there. We had a home economics building, which the math and science program was housed in. And in I believe in 61, the library was built, and it was starting to grow. But Old Main was everything. Most of the classes were at Old Main, except for the math and science program and home economics program. But everybody else was down there, and we walked from Old Main all the way up. Most of us, of course, remember too, I think we only had about 940 students at that time. And I think the population was 8-to-1 female over male.
Wow.
And none of the males were ever in dorms. We all had to find housing or live in fraternity houses, which I was very pleased to live in. One of my neighbors where I lived, he was a member of Sig Tau, and they needed bodies to live in the fraternity house. And he said, "Come on, why don't you live in the fraternity house?" And I said, "Sure, no problem at all." But all the men lived off campus in housing somewhere in the city.
Right. Do you remember whereabouts you were situated? Where you lived?
Right on the main street, going right up to Old Main.
Oh,
And
okay.
I think I'm trying to think of the name of the street. Maple? No.
Yeah, well, Maple's one of the big ones that runs up through there. Yep, that's the street that runs right up to Old Main. Yep.
And the Sig Tau house was about 3 or 4 blocks down, because again, you're going up the hill all the time. And the sorority houses were across the street. Arethusa was at the top. Alpha Sig was across from the Sig Tau house. I don't even know if they're still there or not.
Right. Well, it certainly has changed in that area too. Obviously, when the Old Main burned down, that time, so they have an apartment complex. They call it the Old Main Apartment Complex. So they kept kind of the name and just built some apartments there.
Oh, that's fabulous, because we spent probably 99% of our time in the cafeteria there in Old Main.
Right.
And that's where we did our studying. In fact, we started, because of the math and science program, which started in 1959, the secondary math and science program. There were 6 of us that started a study group. And I believe we started with about 90 students, and I believe we only graduated about 15 out of the program at that time.
Wow. So now you have an interesting story as well about when you were a child or whatever, you actually had polio.
Mm-hmm.
And yep, why don't you tell us a little bit about that? Because obviously when people think polio, they think, physical problems, maybe can't do things, and yet you become a 2-sport athlete in college, and obviously now you're a Hall of Famer, but maybe talk a little bit about that, when you were a child.
Well, I was 4 3/4 years old, and I guess everyone said, stay away from water, et cetera, at that time. And all of a sudden, my right leg started to go, and I was placed in St. Charles Hospital for approximately 4 months. and they did a lot of water therapy with me. And it really, in that hospital, it was, they had iron lung people, they had people that were completely paralyzed. And I was, thank the good Lord, I was very, very lucky that it's only in my right leg. And I recovered. And they told me, exercise, exercise, exercise. Now, again, I was 4.5, so as I grew up, my mother and father, pushed me to do all kinds of exercises, playing baseball, the league baseball, and until I got into the sports and playing tennis. And went through that, I was fine. I exercised the daylights out of myself. I was a lifeguard on the Atlantic Ocean in Islip, town of Islip, captain of the guards over there. So really, it didn't bother me at all. As time went on, I was running, and I was 45 years old. And at that time, I kind of was running like a wounded duck. And, I can kind of laugh at it at this point. And I go up and, my foot would slap on the pavement. And of course, at that time, I went to one of the polio experts, and what I have is what you call post-polio syndrome, which is the atrophying of all the muscles in my right leg. And I guess when I was 57 and a half, 58 years old, they had told me when I was 45, in taking all the tests and doing that, that I would decrease anywhere from 3 to 4, 5% every year. So at 57 and 58, I figured, well, I've already decreased quite a bit. I don't think I'm going to be walking at all when I'm 65, 70 years old. And through whatever, thank the Lord for that, I am still walking. Yes, I am limping. I can't go down a hill. I have trouble walking up a hill. I almost like a true wounded duck walking down a hill off the greens.
Right.
But I'm still playing tennis, golf 2 or 3 days a week. And I go to therapy a couple of times a year, sessions of therapy, because it affects your back when you don't walk correctly and when you limp.
Right.
And I'm just lucky it has not decreased to 3 to 5%.
Yeah, well, it's certainly remarkable, and we're so happy that you're who you are, where you are, and you look great. I mean, you look great.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
So you went on, you became a math teacher. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your professional career and where you spent it and how many years you were there before you finally decided to retire and move to Florida?
Well, I started in Hauppauge Union Free School District on Long Island, and I was a math teacher there. I taught math 7 through 12. And the third year that I was there, no one wanted to be math chairman. So I said, I raised my hand and I said, I will. And this is really going back to Garth Stam and the school itself with the leadership skills and the time on task. And, when you play 2 sports in college and you also are in a fraternity, you also want a social life, you also are in a team of 6 individuals for study, it teaches you a lot about time on task.
Right.
And I said, okay, I'll do that. And at that point, I became the math chairman. And a couple of years later, this was 1963, this was 66, so I became the math chairman and of just the 7 through 12. And then what they did is the school expanded, and they opened a brand new high school, and I became director of math there. And at that time, one of the principals was in a very serious accident coming down from upstate New York. He was going back and forth, and the assistant principal asked me if he was assuming the principalship, if I would assume not only director of math, but also the assistant principalship. And I said yes at that time. So crazy, I did it.
Yeah.
Very difficult. And a couple of years later, I decided to move on, and I moved up to Lafayette, where I was the middle school principal for 5 years up there. And that was very interesting because there was a very large Indian population, Onondaga Indian population was up there. And it was a very, very, and Bob Shea was the district principal at that time, a lovely, lovely, lovely man. And it was an incident when you learn things. There was a problem on the bus from the Indian reservation. And so I went down to the reservation and met with the chiefs, and they said, no problem, we'll take care of it. No problem at all. Next day, no problem. There were problems on the bus. Next day, there were problems on the bus. One of the young ladies came up to me and said, you're meeting with the wrong people. Meet with the squaws. I said, okay. Went down, met with them, not a problem on the bus again. Wow. So you learn things in life, right?
Yeah, yeah.
you know who the bosses are.
Yeah. A true leader, right? You know where to find the right answers. Yeah. Yeah.
And from there, in 1975, I went to North Syracuse Central School. There was a middle school there that had 1,600 kids in the middle school. And at that time, in 1981, the superintendent came to me and said, would you like to run Cicero North Syracuse High School? There were two high schools there, North Syracuse High School and Cicero North Syracuse High School. I said, sure. So I started there. A year later, we were combining schools. So I became the principal of both Cicero North Syracuse High School and North Syracuse High School. And then a year later, the schools combined into Cicero North Syracuse High School.
Wow.
And I was there from 81 to 97.
Wow. That's quite an accomplished career, and really, like, just training here. I mean, like, how do you attribute your ability to move up that way, and maybe, talk about how your education here, because you didn't go to school to study to be a principal,
No, I didn't.
or superintendent, or, you know what I mean? Like, you didn't do that. So how do you think that your experience here at Oneonta, being a two-sport athlete, helped you in that regard?
Well, it's interesting. Not only a two-sport athlete, but the people who were at Oneonta at that time. I met in playing ball. You meet people from a rural area, but I mean a real rural area. You meet also people from the urban area. You also meet people from the suburbs, and you get a sense of feeling that everything is different. You've got to do different things with different people, and you've got to deal with different people. And even professors. The professors were outstanding. They really were. We had a math professor by the name of Dr. Rush, who I believe was chairman of the math department at that time. You ever needed help, he was always there. His office hours were open. They were there. You just learn from so many different people in not only in the sports, but also just meeting people in having coffee. And that's where we spent most of our time. But the sports athlete, the sports aspect for Garth Stanley, as I said to you before, the leadership skills that he provided were outstanding. He gave a lot of confidence in you. He also said, look, we can do this. I know Laddie Decker was the goalie for us for 3 years, and he was inducted, I believe, 1999.
Yeah, he was one of the first classes, yep.
Yeah, and he graduated a year before I did. He was a three-sport guy, and you learn a lot from people who were there. You're there the first year. He's been there 2 years, and so he said to me one day, because I was playing fullback at that time, he says, look, I don't want any balls back here. I don't want to catch anything. It's your responsibility to make sure they don't. Well, right. I messed up.
Yeah.
I messed up. Then he got back to him, but he was an outstanding person. But you get to that point where you learn from all the people that are around you.
Right.
And this is the thing you bring through life.
Yep. Certainly, certainly a treasured moment, for during that time. Are there any other memories that kind of stick out for you during your time as a undergraduate?
Yes. One interesting thing, you talk about a small college,
right?
And it really was a small college. You probably knew oh, I don't know, maybe 40% of the people that were there. The library, as I said, was being built in I believe it was 61. And the building was built, it was done, and all of a sudden there was a note out from the college, and I think Netzer was the
Royal Netzer?
right. He was he was the man. He
Right.
put out a note, and
Right.
he said, he was the president at that time, and he said, we're going to try to move every single book from Old Main up to the new library. And we would like every single person to help. And he contacted all the sports teams, all the fraternities, all the sororities, all the professors, and even the town. And what we did is we formed a chain, and a book in Old Main, and it was passed up the entire hill from person to person to person, and was shelved. And every book was moved in one day.
Wow.
And that's what a small school, that's what those are the kind of reflections that you never forget.
Right.
Never forget.
Right. Now, we have a couple more. Do you remember Dick Burr?
Yes, I do.
He was a couple years before you, possibly, but he's in our Hall of Fame as well. He's still around. He comes to every single game on our campus.
That's interesting. Was he on part of the committee?
Yeah, he's on the Hall of Fame committee, as well as Vince Foti Sr. Do you remember Vince Foti Sr. at all?
No, I don't.
Okay. He was a couple years even prior, but he worked at the college for many years as well, became dean of students. But Dick Burr was our director of admissions, and him and his wife come to every single home game. I mean, he could tell you the history of this college better than I can, because he's seen the last 60 some odd years or whatever, and certainly he remembers who you were.
Well, that's fabulous. And he was in a different fraternity,
Yeah.
and we still got along.
Yeah.
But everybody got along.
Yeah.
It was the interesting part of everything.
Well, as we move towards the end of our conversation, I just want to put it out there for you. Is there anybody that you'd like to thank?
Well, Garth Stamm is, as I said to you, is someone who really, and I know you had told me that he passed away 3, 4, 5 years ago.
He passed away within the last 2 years.
The last 2 years. An outstanding coach. And you learn so much from coaching, especially when a coach involves you in some of the decision making. Mm-hmm. And that's really an interesting thing. The other two were Dr. Rush, who was the chairman of the math department. There was also a Dr. New, who he taught biology and he taught conservation.
Yeah.
Because in those days, you had to take a listing of courses. There weren't the electives that you had to take. I even had to play a flutophone.
Wow.
and you can laugh at that, because I didn't play it very well.
Wow.
But we had to take we had to take an art course. We had a lot of stuff. So it was a diverse background that you came from, which is very, very interesting with that.
Right.
But there was also a young lady, I say young lady at that time, who was, I believe her name was Dean of Students, Peg Boffman. She was very, very involved in the campus, and met with her many times, in a good stead, not in a bad stead. But she was really interesting. She, of course, did all the freshmen, and I was involved in that, getting involved in bringing in the freshmen to make sure that they, stayed in school, and counseled a lot of the kids that were there. So she's another one that I felt was very much involved in my years of being successful.
Well, once again, I want to congratulate you. Maybe if I can talk. Congratulate you on your honor of being inducted into our Athletic Hall of Fame. So at this point, I just
Well,
want to have. Oh,
can I say one other thing?
yeah.
There's one other absolutely fabulous, fantastic thing that happened to me at school. I met a young lady there, or maybe she met me. I don't know which one it was, okay? She graduated from Oneonta, and we've been together 58 years.
Wow.
And that's probably the most fabulous thing that ever happened to me. She's kept me on the narrow path, and sometimes I get off it, and she brings me back to reality.
Wow.
And we have 3 kids. We have 3 men who are in Boston and Syracuse and Chicago. We have 3 daughter-in-laws, and we have 9 grandchildren, of which 1 has graduated college. 4 more are in college, and that leaves 4 more coming along the way, and a junior in high school.
Wow.
So that's probably I gotta say, it's the best thing that ever happened to me at school.
Wow. And we certainly are happy for you, and certainly to spend that many years with someone is tremendous, and to have a loving family, and certainly we know that it's just a great thing, and that we're glad that Oneonta was part of that.
Oh, absolutely. It was the whole part of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
It started, and if you want to read the sign behind me, can you read that?
Yep. All because 2 people fell in love.
Yep. That's the whole key to the thing. It really is.
Yep. All right, so the 5 questions we have here. Having a little fun. What's your favorite meal?
Boy, spaghetti and meatballs.
Oh, there you go. American classic. What's your favorite movie?
My favorite movie, African Queen.
Oof.
Yep.
No one said that before. That's the first time.
Well, that's old.
Yeah, I know. That's going way back.
That was the first one I saw.
Yep. What's your favorite music?
My favorite music, country and western.
Oh, okay. Who's your favorite athlete all time?
My favorite athlete all time. Oh, wow. Peyton Manning.
Wow, okay. Place that you would most like to visit?
Tahiti.
Tahiti, okay. All right, so that's what we got. We got 5 questions. So thanks again. We had a lot of fun. It was great to see you. And like I said, as we get closer to June, I'll be sharing more information about, particulars and stuff, but we certainly look forward to that time.
Okay, thank you. And clean up my language, will you please?
Yeah, I don't think it was very bad. So, well, you enjoy the rest of your day, Lee, and certainly have a great holiday season.
You too. You
All
too.
right.
Happy holidays to you.
All right, take care, Lee.
Enjoy.
Bye.
Enjoy your day.
You too.
Take care. Bye.
Yep. Well, Lee, once again, I just want to congratulate you on the honor, and certainly, we look forward to finally actually meeting you in person in June when we welcome you back during Alumni Weekend, to be able to officially unveil your plaques and congratulate you in person.
Well, I hope to be there.
Well, we certainly look forward to it, Lee. And I want to thank you again for joining us here on the Ozone. And just a reminder, you can watch the video portion on our YouTube channel, and you can download the audio portion to your smart devices to listen as a podcast at any time. Once again, I'd like to thank you for joining us, and we'll see you next time on the Ozone.